My heart races as I overhear the pack members discussing the rogue. I should be afraid. I should be running for cover. But instead, I find myself drawn to this mysterious intruder. Why does my wolf react with joy at the mere mention of the rogue's name? There's a secret here, one that could tear the pack apart, and I'm about to uncover it. Chapter 5. 2 weeks. I have been here 2 weeks and every day had been the same. I get up in the morning, make breakfast, nibble on food, say goodbye to Shane, and then head to my room. All I would do in my room is look out the window. Shane would usually come to my room around 1 in the afternoon to see if I had decided to come out. It's like I had been living in a shell these past 2 weeks. Shane would sometimes yell at me, and sometimes I think he just did it to get a reaction out of me. I would think a lot when I would spend my time like this. I would just look out the window as I see the rain dripping down the glass. Spring season was my favorite and I wished so badly I could be in the rain. My wolf loved getting down in the mud and playing in the rain. The only bad thing about not being out there was that times like these brought back those horrible memories. I was brought out of my thoughts when I heard a lot of commotion downstairs. I didn't bother closing the door after Shane came to check on me. I walked slowly down the hall and down the stairs. Sam was with 2 other men that I assumed were part of the pack. I didn't see Chase here and I knew he wasn't anywhere inside of the house. I'm not going to lock up the Luna. Sam snapped at them. Alpha's orders. One of the shorter men said. Why do I need to be locked up? I asked in a panicked voice. Maybe Shane had decided to lock me up because he had enough of me. All of their heads snapped to me and the 2 guys looked at me with wide eyes. They both exchanged a look and slightly bowed their heads. I wanted to roll my eyes at them but dismissed the thought. Everyone who might shade knew Shane had found his mate. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐿, 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐬, Sam, and a few others that were there the day I was captured only knew what I looked like. You're not being locked up, Sam said, shaking his head. And no one is going to lock the Luna up. What's going on here? I asked, crossing my arms. Luna, we need you to come with us, the taller boy said in a shaky voice. No, I said. No, he repeated in a questioning tone. Who are you guys? Luna. I'm Michael and this is Henry, the taller boy said. What are you doing here? A rogue has trespassed through our territory and Alpha Shane said, we should keep you somewhere safe until they find the rogue. Henry said, Sam can take good care of me here. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐿, 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐬. I'm not going anywhere. Sam smiled at me and looked like he had just gotten an award for the best bodyguard. I gave him a small smile in return. When one of the boys reached out for me, I growled at him. Sam was there in front of me trying to block them. What do you think you're doing? Sam growled at them. Alpha's order. You should know that. Henry said pointedly. Stop trying to play hero and let us protect her. Shane just told you to hand her over, didn't he? I don't think he should lock her up. Sam said, shaking his head. Where exactly are you trying to take me? T to the P, present C cells. Henry stuttered. I felt my muscles tense and a loud threatening growl made its way out. I didn't want to be locked up like an animal and I had already assured him I wasn't going to run away. Did he think I was lying? No, I said. If you don't go, the Alpha will get mad. Michael said. I don't care, I said, peeking over Sam's shoulders. I'm not going to be locked up in a cell. That the rogue, Henry said. I'd laugh at the face of that stupid rogue. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐿, 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐬. All rogues know not to cross a pack's territory unless they have a death wish. This isn't the first time we've seen this rogue roaming around since. Shut up, Michael said, smacking Henry in the back of the head. Since what? I was still peeking over Sam's shoulder, but I could still see their faces. I could tell that they weren't supposed to let that bit of information slip. If a rogue had been snooping around here, it would be because he or she was trying to find something. Or someone. Henry said it hadn't been the first time he had seen this rogue roaming around. That could only mean that it's because of me. If the rogue knew I was here then, surely someone must have sent him or her. I felt my heart begin to beat faster and my palms were beginning to sweat. Before anyone could react, I was already running out the door. I didn't know where I was going, but if the rogue was here then I was sure it wouldn't take long for them to find me. I ran as fast as I could and I had to admit that it was nice breathing in some fresh air. I have forgotten how nice it was to be out running in the open. My bare feet were digging into the wet dirt and I couldn't help the smile that came on my face. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Sam yelled after me. Come back here. I pushed myself to run further and that's when I crashed into something hard. I went flying on the ground and I knew I had picked a bad day to wear S. That was all Shane had brought for me. I had been forced to wear those stupid dresses. I propped myself up on my arms and I could taste the dirt in my mouth. I felt several hands reaching out for me trying to help me up. I smiled at Sam and he looked down my body. I was covered in mud and I'm pretty sure my face looked no better. I tried to wipe my hands on the dress but that only seemed to make it worse. Out of nowhere Shane appeared in front of me and looked furious. I gave him a sheepish smile but he didn't seem fazed by it. I now realized that many people surrounded us. I noticed that the people around me were standing in a protective stance. What is she doing here? Shane asked Sam. I didn't think we should have risked her being out here. Sam, she's hurt? Shane growled. I'm fine, I said, rolling my eyes. Take the rogue to the prison cells, Shane said. I looked over Shane's shoulders and I could see a group of men starting to carry away a boy. My wolf was on alert but she didn't seem to be threatened by this rogue. For some reason my wolf was getting unsettled and seemed to be getting angry at the group of men carrying the boy away. Wait. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I stepped around Shane and started running after the group of men. Shane caught my arm and pulled me back. The group of men stopped to look at me and seemed somewhat surprised to see me. When the boy slightly looked up to look at me, my wolf started jumping with joy. It confused me that my wolf was acting this way since she only seemed to like Shane. I wasn't really fond of other people in the pack, but that's because I hadn't spent much time with them. I kept struggling against Shane, who was growling at me and ordering me to stop. For some unknown reason I felt like I really needed to see who that person was. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Shane growled. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My head snapped to the rogue, who was now struggling against the group of men who were trying to restrain him. I was still struggling against Shane, who was still keeping a tight hold on me. Take her away and lock her up, Shane said. I felt several people trying to reach out for me but I fought them off. I could see the rogue was struggling as well and on one slip I started making a run for him. Right before I reached him, Shane grabbed me by the waist and picked me up. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I heard a familiar voice shout my name and my wolf recognized it too. Before I could take another look, Shane was already carrying me off. At one point I bit down on Shane's arm and made a run again before he was able to react. I pushed Shane's men away and it was easier since they didn't want to touch me. The rogue looked up at me and gave me a cheeky grin before Shane could get me in his arms. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Shane growled. Let me go. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Are you crazy? Shane said. He's a rogue. He's not dangerous. I left. Don't touch her. Shane turned to growl at the poor boy that was now being taken away by Shane's group of men. I turned to look at Shane and I saw he was completely covered in mud. I felt like laughing at that moment, but it was no time to laugh. Get him away from her, Shane shouted at them. No, you can't do that. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Shane hissed. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Take her away. No, Shane. Listen to me, I said, clinging to him. You can't. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Go with Chase and I'll take care of this rogue. Shane, he's my brother. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. His shocked expression told me he was not expecting that. Chapter 6. Shane looked at me as if I had just shocked him. Everyone around us froze and looked between me and Jake. I looked at Jake, who was giving me a cocky grin that I wanted to slap off of his face. Jake wasn't actually my brother, but it was the only thing I could do to keep them from hurting him. I knew Shane would probably want to kill him or keep him locked up. He's your brother? Shane asked. Yeah, I said slowly. He's a rogue, Shane stated. I was really getting tired of them seeing that as a bad thing. I knew there were rogues that should be locked up, but that's only because they've done stupid crap that would get them locked up. I had come across many rogues and they had never been a threat to me. I didn't think people in packs understood that. Yeah, and so am I. You used to be a rogue. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Shane said, shaking his head. Can you tell them to let him go? Please. I don't trust him. Then I guess you better lock me up with him. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Moving away from Shane. Take him away, Shane said, keeping his eyes on me. I'll deal with him after I talk to my mate. Mate? Jake gasped, surprised. I turned to look at him and shrugged. I would get a chance to explain to him later, but right now I needed to have him safe. I watched as they started dragging him away, but this time he didn't fight. Jake was just giving me a smile that I had to return. Do you really need to lock him up? 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐬, I know he's a rogue and I am one too. Or have you forgotten that part? I snapped. You're not a rogue anymore. You belong to me and you belong to this pack, Shane said, circling his arms around my waist and pulling me close to him. I used to be a rogue and not all of us are bad. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. 𝐿𝐷𝼐𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What if that would have been me? What if I would have crossed into a different territory and they would have killed me? I looked down at my hands and tried not to let my emotions get the best of me. As a rogue, a pack was the least of my worries. I had bigger problems, but I wasn't ready to tell him that just yet. Sage, Shane sighed. He took a step towards me and reached out for me, but I pulled away. I wasn't happy with him and neither was my wolf. We cared for Jake even if he wasn't my blood. He was a brother to me and one of the most important people in my life. Seeing him in potential danger sent panic coursing through me. Don't. 𝐿𝐷𝼐𝐻𝐿𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I get you don't trust him and that means you do trust me. I guess you have every reason not to. I looked up at Shane and he looked torn. His eyes softened when I looked up at him. People were still standing around, probably waiting to see what Shane would do. I could see they were looking at me with sad eyes. Please don't cry, Shane pleaded. I hadn't realized I was crying until he pointed it out. I knew it was because of Shane not trusting me. I wanted him to. But after the way I acted, I doubted he would ever trust me again. Shane took another step closer, and this time he took me in his arms. One of them my waist and the other around my shoulders. I couldn't help but inhale his scent and give a little sigh of content. It felt good being in his arms like this. My wolf was purring at the close contact. Shane, please let him go, I whispered as I placed my hands on his chest. I nuzzled my nose against his neck and pressed myself closer to him. I could feel him shiver under my touch. He's my brother and I love him. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿 𝐊𝐢𝐳 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐐𝐬. He's all I have left. You have me, Shane said, tightening his arms around me. He's all the family I have left. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐐𝐬. Pulling away and looking up at him, Shane looked at me for a long moment and then sighed. I could feel that he was giving in and needed another push. I looked at Shane through my lashes and even went as far as pouting. It was a look I always have Jake whenever I wanted something he would say no to. Shane finally said, "Thank you." I beamed. I walked around him and ran to Sam so he could take me to see Jake. Sam led me to the prison cells where Jake was being held. When we walked down the dark halls, I spotted Jake leaning against the brick wall casually. Shane was right behind us, but I noticed him hang behind to talk to the guards. "Took you long enough," Jake said. "I was starting to wonder if you've lost your touch." I rolled my eyes at him but grinned. I was so happy to see Jake and I was glad to have someone here that felt so much like home. Lately I felt like I've been stuck in a dark hole that I wouldn't be able to get out of. "I still got it," I said confidently. "I'm here, aren't I?" "Yeah, you are," he said, looking worried. I knew he wasn't referring to being here in the same room as him. "I'm here in a pack with an alpha who is my mate." Jake knew very well why I had been running away for years. "How could you let this happen?" 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐻𝐿. Jake asked. I don't know what happened," I said, looking down. "I just went to get something to eat and the next thing I know I'm here." "She trespassed in our territory," Sam piped in. I had forgotten that Sam was right behind me. I looked at him and he looked emotional, sis. I sighed and stepped closer to the metal bars that were holding Jake captive. "Your mate is the alpha?" he asked in a whisper. "Yeah. Crazy, huh? I'm so sorry. Sage," Jake said, giving me a sad look. "I said I'd be here sooner, but the place was surrounded by wolves. I had to wait for an opening." "Jake, Shane is letting you go. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐻𝐿. "When he lets you go, I want you to run," Sam growled behind me, but I tried to ignore him. Jake was going to leave whether they liked it or not. "He can't go." "Send." "Sam, I'll explain everything later, but Jake has to leave." 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐻𝐿. "No way. Even if he is your brother, he's still a rogue." "Brother?" Jake laughed. "Ah, right. I'm supposed to be your brother." "Supposed to be?" Sam asked, narrowing his eyes. My heart was starting to pick up speed and I was starting to get a headache. Having Jake here was a good thing, but could be very bad. "Sam, if you really want to keep me safe, then you won't say a word to Shane," I pleaded. We were all talking in hushed tones and I didn't think either of us realized it. "I promise I will explain later, but this is very important." "What's important?" I jumped when I heard Shane behind me. I placed my hand over my startled heart as if somehow it would slow its fast beating. I turned around and pressed my back to the metal bars and looked at Shane. Jake had stepped closer to me and I knew he was probably standing in a protective stance. "That we get her brother out," Sam offered when O failed to explain. "I have the keys," Shane said. I stepped away from the metal bars and let Shane unlock it. Sam was still looking at me and he had a disapproving look. For some reason it really bothered me that he was looking at me that way. I wasn't trying to do anything bad and I was trying not to put anyone in danger. As soon as Jake stepped out of the cell, I wrapped my arms around his neck. Jake wrapped his arms tightly around my waist and kissed the top of my head. I clung to Jake as if my life depended on it, and by this point I wanted to break out in tears. I missed something that felt like home to me, and now they had Jake, I didn't want him to go. "That's enough," Shane said. Jake reluctantly let go of me, and Shane wrapped a protective arm around my waist. Jake frowned at Shane and I could actually feel the tension in the room. We all started heading out of the prison cells and made our way outside. Jake stuck close by me and I held onto his hand. Sam didn't seem too happy with the whole hand-holding thing but didn't comment on it either. "We'll have a guest room set up for you at the pack house," Shane said to Jake as we walked towards the pack house. "What? No. I think Jake should go home. I think he should stray." Sound? I turned to look at Sam and glared at him. "I think a guest room would be fine," Jake said casually. "Jake, you need to go home. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐷 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐠𝐬. Anywhere you are is home," Jake said, smiling at me. I knew he meant it literally. Jake had always been by my side from the beginning. He knew everything and all of my secrets. "Jake, you don't have to stay here if you don't want to." "I want to," he said with a smile. I rolled my eyes and had to smile back at him. I missed seeing his face and my wolf was also happy to see Jake here too. "Sam, go get him settled in the pack house," Shane said. Sam nodded and walked ahead with Jake behind him. I was really hoping that Jake wouldn't say something stupid to make Sam angry. I really would hate to explain the whole thing to Shane. It was clear to me that Sam didn't approve of Jake being here. Before I was able to follow after them, Shane stopped me. I looked at him questioningly and made sure to keep an eye on both boys. It was really starting to give me a bit of a panic attack, having them together. "You look nice like this," Shane said, smiling. "Covered in mud and barefoot." Confused. No, Shane laughed. "You look nice when you smile. I'm happy to see Jake, but he can't be here. I thought you would want him here," Shane said, confused. "It's too dangerous," I said, shaking my head and walking away. Before I could get any further, Shane caught my arm. "What do you mean it's too dangerous?" My eyes widened. I didn't realize I had said that out loud. "No reason. Sage, what are you hiding? Ever since you've been here you act so distant with everyone. What's going on? I want to be here." 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐷 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐷. I really do, but I can't. There's a lot of things that you don't know and it's only a matter of time now before. I broke off, not being able to continue. Before things start to fall apart because of me. Chapter 7. Why do you say that? Shane asked. Now that the words had left my mouth, I wished I could have taken them back. The last thing I needed was for Shane to be curious. "No reason. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐷 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐷. Trying to play it off. I didn't mean anything by it. "Sage, don't lie to me," Shane warned. I didn't want to lie to him, but I also didn't want to tell him the full truth. Being mates was making me too comfortable around him. I noticed how I yearned for his touch, even though that's not what I really wanted. At least that's what I kept telling myself. "There's a lot of things you don't know, Shane, and I'd rather keep it that way for your sake and mine. I'll stay and I won't try to leave if you stay out of my business. If something is wrong, I have the right to know. I'm your mate and I can't protect you if I don't know what's going on with you." I sighed and just decided not to say anything. There really wasn't anything that I could really do. I wanted to tell Shane, but he would kill me. I walked in the pack house where Jake was waiting for me. As soon as he saw me, he wrapped an arm around me and squished me against his chest. He ruffled my hair and kissed the top of my head afterwards. "Jake," I whined. "What's up, little sis?" he said mockingly. I smacked his arm away and glared at him. Shane came inside the house and casually walked to stand by my side. He wrapped an arm around my waist and pulled me closer to him. I looked at Jake, who was frowning at the two of us. "I have to go take care of some things," Shane said. "Okay, I'll stay here with Jake." I smiled up at him. Shane smiled back at me and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "I'll be back soon." Shane leaned down and gave me a peck on the lips. I stood there frozen because it was the first time he had ever made a move on me. Most of the times we would argue and stay away from each other as much as possible. I found it a bit strange but dismissed it. My wolf was purring and I was glad that she at least was happy. Don't ever do that in front of me again, Jake said, pretending to gag. 𝐿𝐤𝐼𝐴𝐻𝐿 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I rolled my eyes at him. He's just being possessive. Because he thinks you belong to him like some kind of toy. Don't say it like that, I said, frowning. Sage, I'm still trying to understand how on earth this happened. I noticed that Sam had stepped behind me, and it nearly scared me to death. I hadn't sensed him. He didn't look too happy with me, but then again, when did he ever look happy with me? I sighed as he crossed his arms, waiting for an explanation from me. So, what's the story here? Sam asked, suspiciously looking between me and Jake. I tried to think about a way to tell him that didn't make it sound so bad. I opened my mouth, but Jake interrupted me before I could get a word out. You're actually going to risk telling him? Jake asked me. Jake, what else am I supposed to do? Run away with me like you always do? Jake said, like it was the logical thing to do. She isn't going anywhere, Sam said. You stay out of this. Mutt. Jake snapped. You don't know what's good for Sage. She's the Luna of Nightshade now, Sam stated. She can't leave and I won't let her. Sam and Jake both started bickering back and forth. Mostly they were insulting each other and I was left forgotten. I'm not going anywhere, I reassured Sam, who looked just about ready to attack Jake. Sage, you can't stay here, Jake said, whining. I have Jake a pleading look. He wasn't making things easy for me. I was hoping he would understand. Shane was my mate and I couldn't just leave him now. Despite everything, I really enjoy being with him. I'm tired of running. Jake, 𝐿𝐤𝐼𝐴𝐻𝐿 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Defeated lie. I can protect you, he said, looking pained. Jake and I had grown very close ever since we met. I had been chased by 3 wolves when I stumbled across him. I was in pretty bad shape and Jake helped me out. He saved me from being killed that day, and for that I was so grateful. After that incident, Jake and I were inseparable until now. Jake had to take care of some business with other people he was close with. It seems that they had gotten themselves in a tough situation. I knew he took time in getting here because of that. I know, but you don't have to anymore. 𝐿𝐤𝐼𝐴𝐻𝐿 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That's what I'm here for. Thanks. I smiled at Sam and nodded. Maybe this could actually work for me and no one would find out. Right. I could stay here and ask Shane to keep me hidden from other packs. First I would have to come clean and I wasn't so ready for that. I don't like this. You don't have to like it, I told Jake. Then I'm staying here with you. The way Jake said it left no room for argument. I didn't think it was a good idea for Jake to be here. If something happened, then he could end up hurt. I wouldn't allow anyone to take a fall for me. You have to leave, Jake, I said, frowning. I don't want you to get caught in the middle of this if things get messy. Can you further explain? Sam asked, crossing his arms over his chest. Right, I said, remembering that I still had to give Sam an explanation. I took a deep breath before I said a word. Talking about it was hard. It was a part of my life I wanted to forget, but I couldn't. To me, it wasn't a possibility to just put it behind me. I kept running from it. I had no way out. I just hoped that Sam wouldn't look at me like I was nothing to him. I was kicked out of my pack a few years back. I was stupid back then and I wanted my parents to be proud of me. Our pack was having problems with another pack. There were a lot of problems and the Alpha kept most of them a secret. All we knew was that there would be a fight between the two. I was supposed to do something terrible. Jake pulled me into his arms and I quietly started crying. I had told him this story many times and none of those times became easier. Now that I was telling someone else, it was hitting me hard. I was a coward. I could have done something to stop all of it, but I didn't. I'm sorry. I still don't understand what happened, Sam said. I killed someone. My voice trembled when I finished those words. It wasn't your fault, Jake said, kissing the top of my head. I buried my head in Jake's chest and continued to cry. I hated that I was crying in front of them. I didn't want them to feel sorry for me. but having Jake there made it so much better. I felt safe and protected. I killed her. Jake. Who did you kill? 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐬 𝐃𝐥𝐻𝐼𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝𝐬 Sam asked in a whisper. I pulled away from Jake and turned to look at Sam. I wiped the tears away and tried to control myself. I couldn't be like this here. I couldn't let anyone see me this way. Sam was giving me a sad look, which only made me want to cry more. He looked just like I felt, pained. I had so much pain inside me that I wished there was some way to just let it out. That doesn't matter anymore, I said, shaking my head. I've been on the run for years because the Alpha has been hunting me down. He wants her dead for something that wasn't her fault. Jake added. And where do you come in? Sam asked Jake. I was so close to being captured a few years back and Jake helped me out. I was ambushed and I would have died if it weren't for Jake. Sam still eyed Jake suspiciously but didn't add anything. I could tell he was deep in thought and I waited patiently for him to say something. He couldn't tell Shane yet. You can't tell anyone, I pleaded. I can't risk him finding me and hurting this pack. He's gone mad looking for me because of what I did. Shane has to know. Sam objected. I promise I will tell him, but not now. I do want to stay here and I will if this stays between us. I want to make sure that no one will think of looking here for me. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼�𝐉 Sage, you're really making this hard on me, Sam said, groaning. I said, breaking out crying again. The last thing I wanted was to put Sam in a bad position. Shane was his alpha and had no reason for being loyal to me. He didn't know me. He didn't owe me anything. I hated myself for putting him in that position. Don't cry. Sam reached out for me, but Jake growled at him. Jake wrapped an arm around my shoulders and pressed me against his chest. I clung to Jake longer than necessary, but I needed to calm myself a bit. I felt like I was going to break out in never-ending tears. Okay. I won't say anything, but you do have to tell Shay. Sam, you also have to tell him the mutt isn't your brother. Jake growled again and I chuckled. When I looked up at Jake, he looked down at me with a sad smile. I will, I said, turning to give him a smile. Just give me some time. I suggest that you do it soon because Shay has a bit of a temper. These past few weeks have been hard for him and you haven't made it easy. He's come around you, but that doesn't mean he hasn't taken it out on the rest of us. I'm sorry. I'll tell him. I will. And you two can't be in the same room alone. Sam was still looking at Jake with guarded eyes. He might be close to you, Sage, but he's still a male. By the looks of it. He's unmated. So are you. Jake snapped. Sage is like my little annoying sister. I muttered. She's my Luna. I wouldn't even dare think of her like that. Sam looked horrified. I don't know if I should be relieved or offended. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼 Surprisingly, both Sam and Jake chuckled at me. I was being serious, but seeing them both smiling made me happy. I'm really sorry if I'm putting you in a bad position with Shane. I know he's your alpha and he will always come first. You're my Luna now and I'll do anything to protect you. This is my job. I'm just worried how 𝐊𝐤 will react once he finds out. I hope you know he'll kill us all. I wasn't worried about what Shane would do to me. I was worried about him taking it out on Sam and Jake. I was just bringing more problems to them. He's going to be one pissed alpha, Jake said. I could only nod and agree with him. Chapter 8. The next few days that followed ended up in a routine. Jake and Sam would be up early in the morning to guard me, and Shane would leave for the day. He would come during lunch to check on me and also because he wanted me to make him something to eat. All of the boys in the pack house were usually there during lunchtime. I guess they were a fan of my food. To my 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, 𝐊𝐤𝐧𝐑𝐞𝐬. Shane would leave again. I didn't make it easy whenever he left. My wolf wanted to be close to him and it didn't help that she always made me feel detached. Shane hadn't made a move to claim me yet. I wanted to think that he was just giving me space, but I always wondered if it was something more. What if he didn't love me? What if he was just looking for the right moment to turn me down? What if he found out about what I did? Jake, give it back, I said through gritted teeth. I was getting more and more irritated by the minute. My wolf hadn't been out for weeks and she was becoming unsettled. Jake wasn't helping with all the teasing and taunting he was doing. He was more relaxed because he was with me. But he wasn't letting his guard down. Say the magic word, Jake said, holding up the remote control. We had been watching TV ever since Shane had woken me up early morning. His excuse for waking me up early was that he simply wanted to say goodbye. Then, he proceeded with talking about how hungry he was. I had lazily gotten out of bed and cooked for the boys in the house. Shane had waited patiently for me to finish my food before leaving. I knew this was the main point of waking me up. For the last couple of days I hadn't eaten when it had bothered Shane. It's not what I was doing on purpose, but I was really stressed out. Sam always had to mention to me that I soon had to tell Shane about Jake. We had gotten along fairly well lately that I didn't want to ruin that. I wanted Shane to trust me and I wanted to be able to trust him. Jake is the most 𝐿𝐲𝐻 wolf ever. I grunted. Jake beamed at me and handed me the remote control. I snatched the remote from his hands and threw the pillow at his face. Jake chuckled and plopped down on the couch. Sam had been watching the whole time and was trying to hold in his laugh. What are you? 𝐿𝐲𝐻 isn't even a word. 𝐿𝐲𝐻𝐬 𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐬 𝐊𝐲𝐻𝐬𝐩𝐿𝐲𝐻𝐬. It is in my world. Jake smiled while eating a bag of chips. I plopped on the couch next to Jake and crossed my arms angrily. I was mad that Jake was using his strength against me. Of course I was going to be weaker than him since he's a male. Sam just sat there looking at us while Jake tortured me. Too bad there's only a population of one. I snorted. I switched through the channels on TV and finally settled for some cartoons. Jake and Sam both started complaining about my choice of entertainment. I tried to ignore them as I got caught up in a fine episode of SpongeBob. It's not my fault I was robbed of this kind of entertainment, that I wanted to take advantage of every opportunity I got. I have to go. Sam suddenly straightened up and looked alarmed. Where are you going? Shane wants to see me. Said. You'll be okay with Jake here? Right. Yeah. Don't worry about me. Go do what you have to do. 𝐿𝐲𝐻𝐬𝐬 𝐻𝐸𝐲𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻 Not me. Sam still looked unsure about leaving me alone, but he finally left. Sam had insisted he couldn't leave Jake and me alone because he thought Jake might try something on me. Jake and I were more of siblings and our relationship was never anything more. I tried to explain it to Sam a billion times, but he still seemed unsure. Shane was still oblivious to everything that was going on. He had commented a couple of times that we were acting weird. To distract Shane, I was being sweet to him and he would fall for it all the time. I loved thinking that for a moment we could actually have something. Jake wasn't at all happy that I was willing to stay here with Shane. I wonder if everything is okay. To my 𝐿𝐻𝐷𝐞𝐝 𝐊𝐢𝐵 𝐻𝐿𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐿𝐷𝐞𝐲𝐻𝐬. You're safe, Jake stated. I switched the TV off, no longer interested in watching it, and slouched on the couch. The entire time I've been here has been nothing but nerve-wracking. I kept looking over my shoulder as if expecting to see him. No one has been asking for you, and last I heard you were down south, Jake said. I'll make sure to keep it that way. Thank you, Jake, I said, giving him a sad smile. You know it's not your fault and you don't deserve it. I don't like that you're here and that you've decided to stay. But Shane doesn't seem like such a bad guy and you deserve some happiness. You think so? I asked, unsure. You should slap yourself for doubting it, Jake said. I rolled my eyes but beamed at him. I got up from the couch and started making lunch for the boys. I knew they would be home soon and they were always hungry. I made them sandwiches since we were down on groceries. I made about 15 sandwiches and placed them on the island. When the boys got home, they immediately walked in the kitchen. I was arguing with Jake because I wouldn't let him have the first sandwich. When Sam walked in the room, I could see the worried look in his face. Alex walked in right behind him with Chase at his side. Shane was right behind them and he looked all too happy. hungry. 𝐿𝐲 walked over to me and wrapped his arms around my waist. His chest was pressed against my back and he buried his face in my neck. I giggled when 𝐲 started blowing against my neck. It was something he didn't always told me it was because he wanted to claim me. 𝐲 hadn't pushed it on me, but I knew that it would have to happen. I wanted it to happen. Eventually. Everyone had already started eating and Jake was making a disgusted looks at us. I stuck my tongue out at him but smiled. He complained that lately 𝐲 I had been acting all lovey-dovey as he liked to put it. You have no idea. 𝐲 whispered so low in my ear that only I could hear. 𝐲 reached around me and grabbed the sandwiches. He handed me one and started eating the other. I rolled my eyes but started nibbling at the food. Others from the pack walked in the house and started eating as well. I have a surprise for you, 𝐲 said, his voice coming it louder. Everyone turned to look at him with the smiles. I looked at him questioningly. He had gotten everyone's attention and especially mine now. I think it's time we present you to the pack, 𝐲 said. I would be lying if I said I wasn't surprised. I had known that 𝐲 would eventually want to take that step, but that also meant he needed to claim me. Everyone else was smiling and they seemed to be happy about that. I looked over at Sam who didn't seem pleased with the idea of it. I would like that. 𝐿𝐲 𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐲 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐲. We all made small chat while we ate. Once the boys left to do their pack business, I started cleaning up. Jake and Sam stayed with me in the kitchen. They were both watching me and I knew they were waiting for me to comment on the whole presenting me to the pack thing. Most people here already knew that I was 𝐲's mate, but they never really saw me out and about. I really didn't mind the thought of being presented, but it scared me that I would have to mate with 𝐲. It was a normal thing for wolves to do, but I felt pressure. Up to a few years ago, I was raised in a pack, but all of that went out the window when I got kicked out. I don't like this. Jake was the first one to speak. It's the right thing to do, Sam said, frowning at Jake. I'm doing it and I think it will be good for everyone. 𝐿𝐲 𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐲. I can't believe you're going to. Jake shuddered. Gross. I rolled my eyes at Jake. He always wanted to treat me like a little girl, even thought I was already in my 20s. Jake was a few years ahead of me, like 𝐲, but he somehow thought it made him wiser. He acted like such a child sometimes. Oh, stop being a baby. 𝐿𝐲 𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐲. This is bad, Sam said. Thank you. I smiled, and then turned to Jake. See, Sam thinks you're being a baby too. Not that, Sam said deep in thought. Is something wrong? Sam had a worried look ever since he came back with 𝐲. I meant to ask him about it sooner, but we had people around us. 𝐲 called me to a meeting to inform us that Alpha Jace from Shadowfalls is paying us a visit. He seemed to insist on coming here and 𝐲 gave him permission. I think it's one of the reasons why he had mentioned presenting you to the pack. Jace doesn't have a mate and 𝐲 didn't like the thought of him being here if you haven't been claimed. Sam explained. You don't think he'll be here looking for me, do you? I panicked. No one would dare to look for you in a pack. Jake said. It's not something you would do. I don't know, but I don't like the fact he seemed to insist on it. Sam said. I didn't know Alpha Jace too much, but I had heard of him. He was known for having good fighters in his pack, but his pack was fairly small compared to 𝐲's. I didn't know that 𝐲 talked to Alpha Jace. 𝐿𝐲 𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐲. They go way back and are close. Sam shrugged. But when 𝐲 got a call from him, he mentioned he found his mate. After 𝐲 mentioned that he insisted on coming for a visit. We should run now, Jake said. I don't want to keep running. I protested. I'm sure it's nothing serious. But what if something happens? Jake pressed. I don't think Alpha Jace would be stupid enough to make a move if he knew anything about you. Do you think he's looking for you? Sam asked. No, Alpha Jace is not the one looking for me. To my 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿 𝐊𝐢𝐳 heartfelt thanks for your unfading 𝐂𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐻𝐿. I don't believe he is connected to Shadow Falls. I'll try to see if I can get anything from Shane about his visit, Sam said. The rest of the day dragged on. I was in my room waiting for Shane to get home. I had taken a nap earlier, and I didn't want to go back downstairs with Jake and Sam. I wanted to be alone with my thoughts. I didn't want to be bothered, and I told that to Jake through our mind link. When Shane finally came home, I hopped out of the bed and raced downstairs. My wolf was jumping with joy that he was back with us. Both Sam and Jake rolled their eyes when I joined them on the couch. They both knew that the only reason I had come down from my room was to see Shane. Shane walked in the room and smiled when he saw me. I casually stood up and walked over to give him a hug. Shane dismissed everyone, and it had taken a lot of threatening to make Jake leave. We were left alone in the pack house, and I was starting to feel nervous. I didn't think he would want to mate so soon. Where are they going? I don't know. Shane shrugged. Most likely to their parents' house. What about Jake? Sam is keeping him company. I wanted to have this night with you, Shane said slowly as we walked up to our room. Jace will be here in 2 weeks. We should talk about some things. When do you want to present me to the pack? My voice shook with nerves. That will be your decision. My parents would like to meet you, too, and they're pretty upset I haven't presented you. I wanted to give you some time to get used to being in this pack. I know it's a hard adjustment from your previous way of living, Shane said. I crawled on the bed and sat down with my legs crossed. Shane walked into the closet, and when he came back out he had no shirt on. Shane was wearing a pair of grey pajama pants that hung low on his hips. My wolf stirred inside of me. It's a big adjustment, but I'm trying. I agreed, nodding my head. It's better now that Jake is here. Your brother seems to be settling in perfectly, Shane said. He has a strong wolf too. Yeah. He's fine anywhere I am. You both have a good relationship, don't you? I can see how he protects you. Honestly, it's the only reason I leave Sam with you without a female wolf. My sister and I were the same way. I was always protective of her. Shane came to the bed and laid next to me. I was still sitting down, and it was taking all of my strength not to move. He looked so good that I just wanted to run my fingers down his bare chest. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿 𝐊𝐢𝐳 heartfelt thanks for your unfading 𝐂𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐻𝐿. Yeah. About 7 years ago she found her mate, and he was a close friend of mine. She obviously left with him. One day I got a call from her mate telling me she was dead. What? My voice came out louder than I intended. It was just a surprise to find out things about Shane. We didn't really talk much, and I knew most of it was my fault. He was giving me space, and I appreciated that. I turned to look at him, and he was just staring at the ceiling. Shane looked upset, and I laid next to him. Shane sighed once I was pressed tightly against his side. I listened intently as he continued on with telling me about his sister. She was killed by someone. Shane's voice was low and sounded threatening. It sent a shiver down my spine, and he must have felt it because he wrapped his arms around me and held me close. Today marks 6 years since she's been gone. I couldn't listen to anything else Shane said. My heart began to pound in my chest and my mind was racing. I didn't want to make assumptions, but my mind was already connecting the dots. Today had marked 6 years since the day I had left my old pack. 6 years ago I killed someone and I became a rogue. 6 years. Chapter 9. I pressed myself closer to Shane as I listened to him talk more about his sister. The more he talked, the more I felt a stone weighing down at the pit of my stomach. He talked about everything. He talked about how she had the purest heart and the kindest soul. How was I supposed to feel after he told me that? She sounds nice, I commented after he finally paused. It was hard not to love her. I know you would have gotten along with her. I don't know, I said, unsure. I never really got along with anyone from my pack. I was never one to socialize with others. Shane was running his fingers up and down my arm in light strokes. It was doing wonders to me. At any other time I would encourage him and take it the opportunity to get closer to him. But with the new information I was frozen in place. You never talk about your old pack. In reality, I never talked about anything. Any conversation I had with 𝐿𝐲 was about my day. He would want to know every detail of my day. Apparently he didn't trust Sam and Jake completely. He didn't trust Sam because he didn't have a mate, and he didn't trust Jake because he would always joke around playfully. I liked that 𝐿𝐲 cared so much even when I felt he was smothering. He never tried anything on me either, and I appreciated that. In his own way he was taking care of me. He was letting me settle in and take this at my own pace. I was thrown out of my own pack and rejected before I even turned 16. I said, in a shaky breath. As soon as the words left my mouth, 𝐿𝐲 tight and his hold on me, and a low rumbling sounded deep in his chest. I pressed myself closer to 𝐿𝐲 and my hand up and down his chest. I felt him relax a bit, but he was still tense. Who were they? 𝐿𝐲 demanded. It doesn't matter anymore. It was a long time ago and I don't like talking about it. I was always used to being on my own, and then Jake came along. I smiled at the many memories I had with Jake. You love your brother, don't you? I nodded and smiled up at him. Jake was my bodyguard, best friend, and brother. I owed everything I had because of him. He taught me how to fight. He was there by my side every time I needed him. My wolf had also grown fond of him. He was our family. Yeah, I do. 𝐿𝐲𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐲 𝐷𝐐𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐲. Why did he decide to join you? 𝐿𝐲 asked. Here was my chance to come clean. All I had to do was tell him that Jake wasn't my brother. I could tell him everything, but then I would have to tell him about the incident that happened 6 years ago. I didn't want to think that maybe. No, it just couldn't be. Jake is my big brother. He likes protecting me. 𝐿𝐲 shifted to his side so he was facing me now. His hand ran down the side of my face and ended under my chin, where he tilted it up. I can protect you, 𝐿𝐲 said, frowning. I know that there's a lot you can't protect me from. I won't let anyone lay a finger on me. You're mine, he growled out. A smile tugged at my lips. Yes, I was his mate. I belonged to 𝐿𝐲, but would he still want me if I told him the truth? Even if it wasn't his sister, I had still done a horrible thing. There was no forgiveness for that. I know you won't, and Jake wouldn't let anyone hurt me. He has made sure that we are always safe. There are rogues that are dangerous, but there are others that are worse. I believed pack wolves were of the worst kind. Many pack wolves would frown upon rogues because they thought we were dangerous. Rogues had it hard. No one realized how hard it was to keep running. We could never have a normal life. Rogues are dangerous, and I'm surprised you survived for so long, 𝐿𝐲 said. How old are you? I'm 21. 𝐿𝐲𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐲 𝐷𝐐𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐲. You were so young when you became a rogue. Why? Rogues are uncontrollable, unpredictable, dangerous. 𝐿𝐲𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐲 𝐿𝐲𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐲. A danger to all wolves. They aren't so bad. I defended. I didn't like where his comments were going. Are you kidding? Rogues should be wiped out. Why? Because pack wolves are better than rogues, I said sarcastically. Yes, we are better than them. How could he say something like that? I knew some rogues weren't that great, but most were peaceful. The reason why rogues caused so much trouble was because they held resentment towards alphas. Alphas thought they had the right to run their packs without caring about other wolves in the pack. Some were selfish and dangerous. 𝐿𝐲𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐲. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. They stuck by each other and some became like family. You shouldn't feel too safe around them, 𝐿𝐲 said. I couldn't take it anymore. I hated how he was attacking innocent people he didn't even know. I sat up in bed and scooted away from him. 𝐿𝐲 wasn't happy with my actions. He tried to get me back in his arms, but I pushed him away. Is that how you feel me? I was hurt by his words. Of course not, 𝐿𝐲 said. You're my mate, but that's how you feel about Jake. I know he's your brother, so he would never hurt you, 𝐿𝐲 explained. But rogues are the most dangerous wolves. Jake isn't dangerous. It's logical for you to think that. He's your brother. I don't think he would hurt you intentionally. But if he loses control, then it could happen. I'd hate to think what would actually happen if he hurt you. Rogues can be vicious. You don't know anything about rogues. Have you forgotten that I used to be one? I started making my way out of the room, but Shane was quick to stop me. It wasn't his comment that had gotten to me, because it was a possibility. Jake could lose control of his wolf at any time and could hurt me unintentionally. It was the denial of having something to do with his sister's death upsetting me. 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐠⁸𝐬 I didn't mean to upset you, Shane said. I tried to sidestep Shane, but he kept blocking me. My wolf was stirring inside of me, begging me to come out. I'm going for a walk, I told Shane. I'll go with you, he offered quickly. Alone? I shook my head and then added, with my brother. I quickly sent a message through our mind linked to Jake. I needed to talk to him about this. I can go with you. Frowning, I said I'm going with Jake. I pushed on his chest and walked out of our room. I headed down the stairs and straight to the door. When I opened it, Jake was only a few feet away. I was starting to take a step out, but Shane caught my elbow and pulled me back. It didn't go unnoticed by Jake how I stumbled back. Jake, I'm fine, I said when I saw the cold look he was giving Shane. A low growl rumbled deep in his chest. Go, I'll catch up. Jake seemed reluctant to go, but did as I asked. When I turned to look at Shane, his eyes were dark and he looked tense. I sighed and wrapped my arms around his waist. I could tell he wasn't expecting that since he didn't react immediately. I was being mean to him and he didn't deserve that, not after tonight's revelation. I'll be back, I quietly said. I just want to talk to Jake. Take Sam with you. I shook my head. I didn't need Sam there trying to listen to what we were talking about. He already knew enough and he didn't need to know this. I was really starting to regret my decision to stay. I need some alone time with my brother. This was supposed to be our alone time, Shane said, frowning. We need to talk about a lot of things and get things prepared. Jace is coming for his visit and I need to present you to the pack. My parents want to meet you. I sighed. I won't be long. After I get back, I promise we can talk about it. Shane looked down at me for a long moment before nodding. Be careful. I nodded and gave him a smile. Shane quickly pressed a kiss to the corner of my mouth and it made my stomach twist. My wolf gave a small purr and was just taking to reach for him. Before I could do something stupid, I ran off after Jake. He was far ahead, but I knew he was close enough that he heard most of what was said. Are you actually going to go through with that? Jack asked when I reached him. 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He's my mate. 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We continued walking, and once I was sure we were out of hearing range, I sighed. Jake was mostly rambling about unimportant things, and I knew he was just doing it for Shane's prying ears. I could practically see him digging holes on my back as he stared at us. I knew he wasn't happy with me going with Jake instead of staying with him. Of course I'm not going to go through with that, I said in a low whisper. I didn't trust that we were completely alone. I had to whisper low enough so only he could hear me. I scanned my surroundings to see if we were being followed. I could see Jake tense and he was trying to scent other wolves around. Jake used to be a tracker in his old pack and apparently he was really good at it. Jake told me the reason he left his pack was because they wanted to use him. He had to track down wolves, and when he did they were put down. He didn't like that all of those people he had to track down were killed soon after. It was mostly people who decided to go to a different pack. Good. I was beginning to think you were losing it. Jake said, You're a good actress. Did you know that? Good enough to win an Oscar if you ask me. I want to be with him. Jake. 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I really do. 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You can't be serious about this, Jake said. We should run away now. Jake stopped walking and looked at me confused. He continued to look around to make sure we weren't being followed. I knew Shane didn't trust Jake, and he wouldn't willingly leave me alone with him. I heard shuffling in the trees and that confirmed my suspicions. I knew they were probably following us for a while now, but we were talking too low that we couldn't be overheard. Jake took my hand and led me to the trees. We went deeper into the trees and tried to get as far away as we could. Both of us didn't know the area at all, and I had a feeling we would somehow end up lost. Okay, what the hell is going on with you? Jake practically hissed. We can't stay here any longer. 𝐿𝐤𝐳𝐥𝐿𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐬 𝐊𝐤𝐳𝐸𝐬𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐬. Feeling the pain my wolf felt as I said those words. I do want to stay. Jake, he's my mate. He wants to claim me and mate with me sometime in the next 2 weeks. He's been nothing but patient with me. So, why do you want to leave? I mean, if I found my mate, I wouldn't want to leave her. I'm surprised Shane hasn't claimed you yet. I can imagine how his wolf might feel right now. I don't really like the guy, but I can imagine how much pain he's going through right now. Didn't you know that the longer it's avoided, the more his wolf will go crazy? You shouldn't do that. I was looking at Jake incredulously and I was shaking my head. Not even moments ago he was wanted to kill Shane, and now he was sympathizing. Jake, I killed his sister. My voice shook as I spoke. Jake's eyes wide and his face seemed to pale. As I said those words out loud, I felt a pin in my heart. I didn't realize I had started crying until Jake wiped my tears away and held me in his arms. I hadn't realized I was holding all of that in until I couldn't stop crying. I'm so sorry. 𝐿𝐤𝐳𝐥𝐿𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐬 𝐿𝐤𝐳𝐸𝐬𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐬. Jake said, rubbing small circles on my back. Are you sure it's his sister? He said she was killed 6 years ago. 𝐿𝐤𝐳𝐥𝐿𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐬 𝐊𝐤𝐳𝐸𝐬𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐬. Jake, 6 years ago I had killed. I tried to tell myself it wasn't my fault, but I knew that it was a stupid thing to do. I could have said no and had taken any punishment, but I didn't. I went along with the plan, and in the process I did a terrible thing. I told you that it's not your fault. Jake repeated the same thing he always told me when I broke down crying about it. No matter how many times he said it, it wouldn't change the fact that I had done it willingly. We have to leave. Jake, I pleaded. Shane can't know what I did. When he finds out, he's going to hate me. I can't let that happen. I know this is a bad time to bring this up, but Randy called today and he had some bad news. We have to stay here, at least until I know it's safe. What? Why? I asked, confused. Randy said he overheard a couple of rogues talking about you. That poor excuse of an alpha is willing to buy anyone in order to find you. If that alpha comes here and word gets out that you're Alpha Shane's mate, then things will get pretty bad. I looked at him in disbelief. This couldn't be happening to me. Chapter 10. I looked at Jake and felt everything in me break. I was afraid. I wasn't afraid for myself, but for Shane. Here I was trying to build some sort of relationship only to have it tumble in the process. I couldn't help myself when I broke down in front of Jake. He caught me in his arms and held me close to him. I could hear voices around me, but I couldn't calm down enough to know what they were saying. For a moment Jake's warmth left me, only to be replaced by someone else. My body immediately reacted to him. I felt an arm around the top of my shoulders and under my knees. I called out Jake's name, but I couldn't hear anything. It took a few steady breaths to calm me down. I kept my eyes closed as I tried to clear my mind. I was still in Shane's arms, though I knew that we were outside anymore. What happened to her? Shane demanded. He was shaking. Or maybe it was me. She was emotional and had a meltdown. Emotional. She wasn't like this when she left. What did you do to her? What? I didn't do anything. I wouldn't hurt her intentionally. Jake snapped angrily. Then explain yourself. Why was she crying? We were discussing something. Discussing what? That's none of your business. I slowly opened my eyes and saw Jake standing close by. His lips were in a thin line and he looked on edge. She's my mate. Of course it's my business. Shane shouted. I pressed myself closer to Shane and bit down on my lip so I wouldn't cry again. I knew he would be changing his mind about that once the truth came out. And she's my sister. If she wants to tell you, then she will. Get out, Shane growled. He was holding me so tight and his claws pierced my skin. Shane was angry and Jake wasn't making things any better. At one point I thought that he might actually shift. I needed to get a grip and calm down. Shane, I chucked out. I'm not leaving until I know my sister is safe and she's okay. Jake looked at me as he spoke. I didn't want him to leave. He gave me a short nod knowing that I wanted him to stay. Jake sighed and sat down on the couch across from us. I want you out of here. Jake, I told you I'm not leaving until Sage wants me to. I shifted in Shane's lap and placed a hand on his chest. He pulled back just the slightest bit to look at me, but he didn't make a move to let me go. What happened? Shane asked. I looked over at Jake. I needed to tell Shane. I couldn't stay here and get my hopes up only to have things go down the drain. I needed to be a big girl about this and clear the air. Tell me, Shane urged. Why were you crying? I shook my head and pulled away from Shane. He didn't want to let me go, but I managed to get out of the hole he had me in. I stood in shaky legs. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I couldn't even get a full sentence out before I started to get chopped up. Sam chose that moment to walk into the house. Jace and Alex were behind him. They all looked at me and I felt my heart speed up. I couldn't do it. I couldn't tell him the truth. Is everything all right? Alex asked Shane, concerned. He looked at me worriedly and had another look I didn't recognize. What happened back there? Sam asked. I didn't realize that they had been there. They knew something was wrong. Everyone knew that something wasn't right and they were waiting for me to spill. Tell him. He needs to know. I need to tell you all something. To my 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My voice cracking. Are you sure? Jake asked, coming to stand close to me. I reached for his hand and gave it a squeeze. No, I wasn't sure, but I needed to do this. Jake, I have to. Jake wrapped his arms around me and I buried my face in his chest. I felt my heart pounding wildly against my chest. I felt every beat my heart gave was so much pain. I didn't know how Shane would react to everything. If he rejected me, then my heart would stop beating. Sage, please tell me what in the world is going on. Shane pleaded. Why were you like that? Why were you crying? I took a deep breath and turned to face him. This was it. All or nothing. Because I'm being tracked down to be killed. I rushed out. Everything was dead quiet. No one said a word. It seemed to take time for my words to process through everyone's mind. Shane's eyes wide and a loud growl left his mouth. The growl made me jump back and press my back to Jake's side. Who is trying to kill you? Shane asked through gritted teeth. I saw the angry look on his face and that was all it took me to cower and not say anything else. Sage, tell me who is trying to kill you. I shook my head and backed further away. He stalked towards me and grabbed me by the arms. Jake crowded at him when he pulled on me with too much force that it caused me to stumble. He was really angry. Tell me what is going on here. I did something terrible. I didn't want to, but they made me. I ran away and became a rogue and now they want me dead. To my 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Why didn't you tell me this before? Shane hissed. Because I was scared. Because I was being a coward. I was being a coward and praying he wouldn't ask what I did to deserve this. I didn't have it in me to tell him anymore, because I didn't want to bring this on your pack. This was something that I caused and I didn't want you to deal with it. You're my mate, Shane said. To my 𝐿𝐤𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I need to protect you, no matter what it is you did. I would never allow someone to hurt you. If only Shane knew what had happened. He would surely hate me forever. You don't understand, I said, shaking my head. Shane, things will only get worse. They're looking for me and they know I could be here. I won't let anyone hurt you. That's not what I'm worried about, I said quietly. The pack won't let any harm come to you. Alex spoke up for the first time. He looked just as angry as Shane. They all did. Protecting the Luna is our priority. I don't want anyone to get hurt, I said quietly. We'll protect you. 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐷𝐞𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐳 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐀𝐥𝐻𝐧. I shook my head. I didn't deserve them trying to protect me. Their concern should be the pack. I couldn't bear it if someone got hurt because of me. That was so much worse than what they could do to me. No, I won't allow anyone to get hurt because of me. I deserve whatever they want to do to me. You don't deserve to die for something they blame you for. Jake shook his head. This is your pack and they will protect you. I will protect you and make sure those bastards won't hurt you. We will all keep you safe, Shane's said in a soft voice. I wrapped my arms around Shane's waist and enjoyed the small comfort he was giving me. This was all going to fall apart and I knew it. For now I wanted to enjoy this small moment. For just this moment I wanted to believe Shane would love and protect me. Now tell me who is after you, Shane asked as he rubbed small circles on my back. No one important. I sniffled. Sage, tell me who it is. He said in a warning voice. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to sleep. I'm so tired. Please. I begged. Shane pulled me into his arms and sighed. I had avoided a mess for now, but I knew Shane wasn't going to let it go.